feature that we're going to be trying for this tournament. So it's a debut of that, the debut of the QPADs, and the debut of our new overlay system, which Trance has been working tirelessly on and yelling at people over for the last 2 hours. So hopefully all goes according to plan. But before we talk about the game at hand today, we do have a short recap of what happened the last time we saw Empire in the debut match. Did manage to shut down the CK very effectively, and hold on because Blade of Rain's going to go and time my wild.
Yeah, nice disruption there. Rolled him out, but unfortunately the Warlock and the SD go down. They will get a counter onto the CK. Vigos looking to chase the Razor, and also he's got an opportunity potentially to take down the Kotl. Seconds. Scandal has the 4 staff available. There's the Blink Dagger that you mentioned moments ago from Vigos that's going to be so important in the fight. Santa still lives. Brock is obviously down still. Vigos going to be caught out all by himself. And is he going to be able to blink? I want to stay on him for a moment. He is going to be able to get away. And Vigos lives that fight. So VP just getting absolutely slaughtered by the CK. Also, of course, Scandal there. Dropped up with Silent Wisp. Now going to... Well, there's a slow that comes in. Airman, are you going to get it with the crit? Vigos comes in as well. There's the wall from Santa. Vigos will finish that one off. TMW comes in though. We'll get the screen. Low on mana. Mech used as well. They are keeping up the members of Virtus Pro for as long as possible. Look at that. The Veno finally goes down. But Scandal's gone. Also, the Kotl's gone. Going on to Visage. He has got his axe now.
And the tower might melt, but there's the combo.
BKB not popped yet. There comes the wall. Airman going in, trying to focus down the Alp right now and deciding to change his mind. There's a Ghost Scepter available on Silent, but it doesn't matter as TMW comes in. There's an RP and it once again hits the 2 important heroes. Oh, Rubik! KSI comes in.
Doesn't deal any damage.
Spin with that level 1.
Does nothing.
Blade Fury. Scandal buys back, comes back in. Alp still there, still got his, well, now lost his token.
So there you have it. There's Empire's 2-0 performance over Virtus Pro in the last Dreamhack Invitational broadcast. And Bruno, I think we wanted to talk a little bit about this game to really showcase how Empire is just continuing to roll without the use of Funnick. They have their new player in Vigos, who's taken over the role for mid for Scandal, and things seem to be just working for them still.
Well, I mean, to be fair, we bashed them a little bit last time they played.
A little bit.
Just a little bit, just to warm things up. But Vigos, well, he played Magnus and Pac both times. He did pretty well. Also, Blow Your Brain, a key factor in this.
Wait, did he do that well? Because I remember...
Well, he whiffed a couple of RPs.
Okay, so when we say we did well, we mean one game he may or may not have been contending on farm for the lowest support in the game when he was mid. But he did play well where it counted, and I think that's the point that Bruno was
He won, exactly. So... That's something that we have to take into account. Now he will be facing Sing Sing. And that's something interesting because as we're leaving right now, we're going to talk a little bit about these two players. If the production guy.
Trance is on it, man. See, he's just on top of his game right now. It's a new overlay system,
Yeah,
guys.
look at that. I won't smoke. So we have it here. We're talking a little bit about, as we told, Vigos and Sing Sing. It's pretty interesting for me to talk about statistics about the QPAD Red Pandas because as they are a new team, there are no statistics whatsoever. But we can talk a little bit about Sing Sing, which, as you know, played in lots of teams before that. So Sing Sing, in his career, played 232 games. He has a 51% record. We all know his favorite hero is Kanka. And Vigos, 155 games, mostly in Moscow 5, Venq, and then eventually transitioned to the new Moscow 5, into Elsprite, and now into Team Empire. Played 155 games, 50% win rate, and Night Stalker, his trademark hero from way back when. Still, he isn't playing it as much right now, but hopefully we'll get to see him. And surprisingly so, I've been trying to find any match between these two players, but it seems to be the first time they're facing each other in one of the big matches, with big tournaments. So it'll be interesting to see how they fare, who has the advantage. What do you think, Scriff?
Yeah, depending on what heroes goes against each other, of course. But I actually give a slight edge to Sing, because as I've been watching him when they scrim and whatnot, he can do some crazy shit sometimes, but yeah. From seeing Vigos playing VP earlier, I think Sing Sing should have a small advantage going into this.
Interesting.
I kind of agree with that too. I mean, if you think about it, his competitive experience, just based on the statistic page alone, he's played quite a bit in comparison to what Vigos has. And that's not to take anything away from him. Clearly, the guy has been around forever. But when you're going into a match and you're with a new team, you might not have had the most competitive experience in comparison to Sing in Dota 2. That can really come back to impact you. Yeah. But we do have both teams to go over before we get inside the match, and we are the ones actually holding them up, so we should probably get to that. So first, we're going to go over the team of the QPAD Pandas. Remember, this is their debut match. It's the first time they've ever played anything other than a scrim, so excited to see them perform. And Trance, apparently... He's given me the one. There we go. All right, so we got Wagamama going to be playing the carry role.
What a
also,
happy face.
Team captain. Look at that is the look of a man who loves what he does, and that's a dangerous thing when you're going to be playing against him today. Sing Sing, he's a solo mid, obviously. Select, the most recent addition to the QPAD Pandas, going to be playing. The off-laner, Jirax, on support, and then, of course, Mini as also the support. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe they actually interchange roles depending on what support they play.
Yep. I think that Mini favors a lot Wisp and Shadow Demon. So if it's any of those heroes, we'll probably see Mini play them. But Jirax is really, really good playing Lina. I've seen he even has the Arcana, like the new expensive set.
Yeah.
It looks really good, and that makes you play better, right? So if you want to play better Lina, you should buy that set. Anyways, I think we should now move into Team Empire. So, move. Yes. There you go.
That just blew
for Empire.
my brain.
We got Blow Your Brain. Obviously, he's the carry player. Vigos, the newest member of Empire. And he's still using the stand-in tag, but I'm pretty sure he's kind of solidified in the roster as of now. So we can just say that Vigos is going to be their mid player. Scandal, old mid lane player, now unfortunately playing the off lane. It hurts me because I thought he was so good as a mid lane player to see him move somewhere else. A little bit of a bummer. Silent, of course, going to be playing on the support. And then, of course, Godblack and the team captain going to be playing on their secondary support. So the game is actually ready. We're going to go ahead and get that started for you guys so they can stop waiting on us. We just need to have a quick ready check before everything goes.
In the meantime, if you remember, we were talking last time, if you tuned into the first cast, we were talking about having a poll of who was better, who do you think was going to win, Empire or Virtus Pro. This time we have the poll live right now, and if Trans will help me, we'll see the poll coming out in the overlay, which is actually our new overlay.
Where is it?
So is it? There you go. So now what you have to do, it's really easy. You go into Twitch chat and you write who do you think is going to win. If you think the Pandas are going to win, you just write Pandas. If you think Empire is going to win, you write Empire. And if everything comes out okay, we should see that starting to update. And as we see that, we get one Pandas. There we go.
Oh my.
Oh,
that's interesting.
Next level overlay.
Okay, so I have to be totally honest. Panda's definitely writing. Holy cow, that is some quick updating. Now, does it count individual names only, or will it count?
It's just one for name. So if you spam the same name, no, if you spam it doesn't work. It's just one per user. So that's 285, 95, 310 people saying Pandas, 125 people saying Empire. That's actually pretty. I love this new overlay. By the way, I feel that I have to mention, if you really like our, the game is starting, but take it slow, take it slow. The new overlays are really cool. The designer for this was McCormick. If you want to check his other work, you go to facebook.com/McCormickVideos and follow him on Twitter, McCormickVideos. And the programmer was FX, no Facebook or Twitter page. There you go. Oh, and also the poll background programmer, the guy that did the awesome poll is Mape, M-A-P-E. Also, I don't have any other information, but maybe in the future we'll showcase some of this other work. Yes, now Droskill, back to you.
There's something going on.
Back to me. Perhaps the game may or may not have started, but of course, definitely warranted for all the shoutouts. So let's go ahead and get inside the game. The bans and the picks are already underway. If our producer would be so kind as to direct us towards the in-game screen. I feel bad because this is something new for him, and I feel like I'm putting him on the spot. But we are inside the band pick phase. Of course, it's going to be QPAD has taken on Team Empire, my co-commentator for this game, Webboss. You've been a bit quiet, but I think that's about to change.
Yeah. Like I said before, I'm really excited for this game, and why can't I hear myself in the studio? But anyways, the poll pretty much one-sided, it looked like.
Yeah,
pretty much everybody was rooting for the Pandas. If I would be completely honest, I think we're going to see a 2-1 Empire.
Yeah.
Most likely.
You still have the poll in there.
I would agree with that. Empire obviously being very competitively experienced. QPandas haven't been together for that long, but they've put up some pretty impressive wins in scrims. And people say, you know, scrims don't matter, but to a certain extent they do. They really showcase your ability to actually play against the highest level teams. And just because it's a scrim doesn't mean that the win is not meaningful. So I'm looking forward to see what the Red Pandas actually bring to bear. These teams have played each other a few times in scrims before. We've actually had a chance to watch them. So I think what's really going to matter here is what Empire actually wants to take out as we've gone back to the camera. So let me just... Okay,
It's
so
that guy,
there we
sounds-
go. All I have to do is stand right here and you guys can actually see me. We're having a couple of technical difficulties, but hopefully you guys can go ahead and stick with us because we are still actually able to see the
I'm gonna
band
throw you
pick
under the
screens
bus,
on
Andy.
another monitor that's over here. So...
Next level monitors, man.
Everything is.
Yeah, we got next level monitors going on, but I will say the bands have picked so far. It looks like QPAD Pandas have taken out the Nyx, they've taken out the Batrider, and they've also taken out the Wisp so far.
Yeah, Empire banning out that Wisp. We've seen Mini before when he played with Pulse, and as well with the scrims for QPAD, he loves to play that Wisp, and he's really good with it as well. And both teams really favor that as well. Silent usually plays it for Empire when they pick it up. So, obvious choice, just banning it out. And none of the teams have to play with or against it.
Well, this is one of the things that you really have to take into consideration when playing against a newer team is Empire is a team who often bans out things that you're comfortable with. And then you get the situation where you have played against Red Pandas before, but you haven't played it against them so much that you would know exactly what they're going to pick. You haven't figured out their play style. So do you ban something just as a respect ban? Do you ban out Sing's Kunkka? Do you ban out just regular heroes like a Darkseer, maybe a Keeper of the Light?
Yeah, that's a good question. We have to see. I mean, like you said, they've been scrimming quite a lot, but it's still... Panda's been scrimming against other teams as well, so they most likely got some other picks, and Empire's really taking their time with this last ban. It's actually going to be a Brewmaster we're going to see being banned out now. So there are quite a few heroes still in the pool. You could see the Keeper of the Light, like you were talking about. We've been seeing, when we've been watching some of the scrims, QPanda actually uses that quite a bit as well, but Mag also in the pool as well as Darkseer, so 3 top-tier picks still left, and QPAD actually going to go for the Shadow Demon first pick.
That's a bit of a curveball, honestly. Leaving the Keeper of the Light and the Darkseer yet both in the pool. Empire going to be very happy to take both of those. And after seeing what QPAD have going for, this is a little bit of an LGD in style. And they do, in fact, get their Kunkka. So Sing Sing going to be able to play one of the heroes that he's most comfortable on. And you have the Shadow Demon and the Chen combination, which, as I just stated, LGD have done this time and time again. It's incredibly potent for ganking. And, of course, having Shadow Demon is also amazing for setting up your combo with the Kunkka.
Yeah, and having that, if the Shadow Demon player is very good at knowing where the Shen creeps are, it's such an easy setup with pretty much any Shen creep whatsoever to get a good setup with the disruption into a Shen creep stun if it's a Centaur or just a net from a Troll Warlord. So it'll be very interesting to see if they can pull that combo off, but most likely we're going to see Minute playing that Shadow Demon. He really enjoys playing that hero a lot, so we'll probably see something good coming out of them. But Empire, on the other hand, picking up that puck that most likely Vegas is going to play in the mid lane. So going for a really good initiator and a really slippery hero.
Well, not only do they have that great initiation that you were talking about, but look at the AoE potential on the side of Empire. How great is it to have a Dream Coil to set up something like a big Illuminate? You vacuum on top of that. The sheer damage output in the AoE sense for Team Empire is just going to be tremendous. Sure, the Red Pandas have their Kunkka, they have the boat, they have the Torrent, and of course the Tidebringer. As you scale later and later into the game, that becomes a pretty significant threat. But I'm kind of leaning towards Empire in these full-out 5-on-5 engagements. But on the flip side, Red Pandas have this opportunity to go for the Chen, get the quick mech, get level 6, and try to get some early game map control of their own. Now, seeing a Chen, you would just assume that it's going to be a defensive tri-lane, but I wouldn't be surprised to see Red Pandas pull out something a little bit tricky either.
Yeah, it would be a really good decision. Like you've been talking about LGD International, they like to run that Shen aggressive as well. Even though you only have one creep, and that's pretty much the creep you're going to stick with for a few minutes, it could still be very potent to run an aggressive tri-lane if you have a good carry to. But also, on the other side, like you were talking about the Shen having the Hand of God as well as the mech if you can get it up early, they also have the Kunkka boat that's going to help them out to be able to sustain in the team fights a bit more from that Illuminate as well, being able to absorb some damage. If you can get, not just hitting the boat well, just getting the buff up will help them out quite a lot in the team fight. So right now they are quite a tanky team, even though Empire got quite a lot of AoE. So we'll see if Empire is going to keep on going for a more AoE build strat, or if they want to go into something more hard carry that can do some more sustainable damage instead of burst.
I think Empire already has their initiation down with the puck pick, so definitely leaning towards more what you were saying about the carry pickup. And we're going to see a Phantom Lancer get banned out here on the side of Red Pandas. They've also taken out Bane, and we can see Empire doesn't want to play against the Lone Druid or the Queen of Pain. So when you ban out Queen of Pain, that kind of tells me that Empire is thinking this Kunkka could potentially be safe lane and not going mid, which I suppose is a possibility, but typically when you ban out Queen of Pain, that is a hero who is almost solely seen mid. Very seldom do we see her go to the offlane or anything like that. So do you think that Empire is assuming that Red Pandas might be running their Kunkka anywhere other than the middle lane?
I'm guessing that they would be able to assume that, but on the other hand, I know one of the earlier scrims, just since we got the experience to be able to watch the Pandas scrim a bit, I know that they've actually been running Queen of Pain in safe lane farming quite a few times, with Waga playing that Queen of Pain in the safe lane and then still having the Kunkka mid. So it could be something like that just to lock out some burst damage from QPAD, but it still feels kind of a weird pick because most of the times you always see Singh picking up that Kunkka and going for the mid lane. But we'll have to see what Empire wants to go with this, since they're the ones banning it out and they most likely have a good plan with it.
Now, both teams still looking at two more. Empire currently on the last ban of the second ban phase right now, and of course Red Pandas just waiting to get probably an offlaner and maybe another mid if they do plan on running that Kunkka in the safe position. But we are going to find out here shortly. Remember guys, this is a best of 3 and there's only one best of 3 for today. We were supposed to actually have 2, but we actually had one of the teams, an EG, drop out of the tournament entirely due to some intermittent problems with being able to actually show up. So unfortunate that that happened, but we will be bringing you guys much more matches in the future. And Empire, again, they're coming into this match with a win. They just won over VP, and I wouldn't say it was the most decisive 2 I've ever seen. VP actually put up quite a big fight in comparison to what most people were probably thinking up until that point. But do you think that Empire is feeling like they're going to be the ones who are expected to win, or do you feel like this is going to be a little bit more 50-50 for them?
I think that QPAD most likely got the more pressure on them to win this game, since it's going to be their debut game, and I don't really think that Empire actually feels like they have to win this game. Since they got one win already, they'll probably just go into this game, try and play their normal type of playstyle and just go for a safe win if they can go for it. But I wouldn't really think that they try and feel like we have to win this game, otherwise something's going to happen pretty much. So it feels like they'll probably just go into this and play their normal game and just run with that.
I think that's the best way to go about it. Why overhype it, or why get too much mentality going into things? So we're going to see Red Pandas take up a Faceless Void, and I really do like that pick, even though they are partnering with heroes like Kunkka. Normally you would say, why get a melee hero if you have things like Chronosphere? But it's fantastic for lining up the boat, of course, and for lining up the Torrent. And if you're really good at Chronosphere, you can actually clip heroes on the edge in such a way that the melee heroes can still make contact with them, or in the case of Kunkka, he can just hit anything nearby, and he'll be able to splash that damage regardless. And something else that I really wanted to point out about their lineup so far is that they have a team that is very difficult to burst. All of the heroes, like you were saying, even with the first 3, are relatively tanky. Now they have a Void. Now you have Backtrack on top of the mech, on top of the Hand of God, potentially a boat buff. How are they actually going to be able to pick off Void in these fights? Ideally, you would focus him first because Chronosphere is the biggest threat. But now you have so much survivability between just the inherent abilities of your team and what Faceless Void brings during the late game, and it seems like the answer for Empire is going to be an Alchemist, but I don't know if an Alchemist can outcarry a hero like a Void in the ultra late game.
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, if Void can get a good Chronosphere off before the Alchemist manages to get his ultimate out in the late game, he should be able to get that Alchemist down, especially if you have a Boat and a Torrent coming out as well on top of that, and maybe even a Soul Catcher if you're lucky. But Alchemist, though, that is some of the sustained damage that I was talking about, though. In the ultra late game, he's going to be able to just stand there and pounce on someone for such a long time. If they can get a good Dream Coil out, or maybe a good Vacuum Vault to combo that with as well, or if you can get a max stun out. But most likely we're going to see that Void try and go for an early BKB just to be able to dodge that stun. So it'll be hard for Alchemist to be able to get in and actually hit on people with that Chronosphere being in the way as well. And then Disruption, being able to disrupt down the heroes that get initiated on. So it could be very hard for him, but if he's going to be able to stand and just hit people, he's going to do a lot of damage.
That's the one concern. Can Empire actually stick on anyone? And with the addition of Clockwork, that makes things even harder for a hero like Alchemist. It's not like you can just get surged in if you get caught by Cogs, or you get hookshot, or you get stuck by a Chronosphere, get hit by a Torrent. There are so many ways to stop him from doing the damage that he absolutely needs to do. And of course, for Red Pandas, that's probably going to be their offlaner. I would assume that's going to be an offlane Clockwork, looking at a tri-lane of the Shadow Demon, the Chen, and the Kunkka, or excuse me, the Faceless Void in the safe lane, and then of course Kunkka taking up the reins mid. And Visage going to be the last pick out for Empire, or Visage, however you want to say it. I guess it doesn't really matter at this stage. But that's going to be it for Empire. So we're looking at a Keeper of the Light, Darkseer, Puck, Alchemist, and Visage on Empire, taking on a Shadow Demon Chen, Kunkka, Faceless Void, and Clockwork. I have to say, I still favor Red Pandas in the ultra late game just because of their lineup and the inherent carrying potential of a hero like Void. So there's a little bit of an audio issue, so we're going to have to take a really quick break, and we'll be right back in just a minute. Oh, okay, we're not taking a break. We're actually just going to pause the game, and I cannot pause the game because I am an observer, so somebody has to pause. There we go. Thank you, Webboss. So we're having a couple of audio issues, guys, but not to worry. We will have those all sorted out for you really quick. But one thing I do want to talk about really fast while we have the opportunity is looking at the lineup of QPAD, do you feel like it's a bit of an inherent weakness that your lanes have become very, very predictable?
I don't really know, because I feel like they picked this lineup because they knew that Empire really favors going for an aggressive tri-lane. So going for an obvious safe lane farming and then just trying to defend the Void as much as possible could be a good decision, but it's still going to hurt him if Empire actually goes in, wards up their jungle, and just stops the Shen from being able to pick up some good creeps or have some good war vision to be able to scout out when Shen wants to try and come in for a kill. So it could be good for both teams. But right now, it actually looks like, since we're in the game, it looks like Empire is going to run for a safe lane instead. And I'd say that's a bit surprising with them having a Visage on their team, since it feels like Visage is a very, very good aggressive tri-lane hero.
Well, they could just be banking on the fact that everybody knows an Alchemist left in the safe position is going to farm faster than pretty much any hero in the game, bar none, because of Greevil's Greed and the way it works. So in that sense, I kind of get it, but that's also giving the QPAD an opportunity to walk in, take a fast tier 1, maybe even a fast tier 2. They are going to be up against a Darkseer of Empire, and I wouldn't be too surprised to see him sacrifice the lane. But oftentimes when we see an offlaner versus offlaner position, we have to talk about how effectively can they zone the offlaner. Is the Darkseer going to feel so pressured by the Chen, by the Void, by the Shadow Demon to not be in the lane at all, or do you think he's going to be able to soak experience in this position?
It feels like at the start, he'll probably feel quite pressured just having the Shadow Demon staying away or staying close to him and trying to auto-attack him. But even going into the middle, I think that Scandal might start to feel a bit more comfortable in the lane. That could hurt him, having the Shen coming up from the side, maybe getting a really good creep and chaining up. If he has 2 creeps, being able to chain up 2 stuns could be very good for them. But we'll really have to see what happens. But I don't think that he's going to feel too much pressure, and he'll most likely be able to get some good last hits. Experience might be a bit harder, but last hits he should be able to get unless Waga denies everything. All
right, so I think we hit bottom lane pretty hard here. Let's take a look at mid. It's going to be Vigos on Puck, taking on Kunkka, being played by Sing Sing. And in this matchup, I actually had the chance to talk to Sing about this personally, so that gives me a little bit of a cool bit of information I can give you guys. He said, when you're laning it against a puck, it's very simple to actually juke out the phase shift, because if you think about it on paper, you should be able to ideally evade every single Tidebringer that comes your way. But if you're effective enough at canceling your auto attack animation, you can essentially force it out of the opponent and still apply a decent amount of harass. And as we can check over the total CS, Vigos is leading, but it's not by a huge margin. He's sitting at 6-2 comparative to the 4-1 of Kunkka. It's going to basically boil down to what these two mid laners can get done during that middle stage. And in that regard, I have to give Puck a bit of an advantage. I feel like his initiation is a little bit more lenient. It's a bit easier to execute than making sure your boat hits a handful of people or your torrent is on point. But he then again does have things set up like that Clockwork and like that Shadow Demon.
Yeah,